Imagine looking out your window and realizing the person taking photos of the local scenery is actually mapping out a nuclear defense base.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a paranoid Cold War thriller,
Yeah.
right? But it is happening right now, literally in plain sight across the country.
Welcome to today's Deep Dive Learner. We are looking at a massive stack of recent Department of Justice press releases and Homeland Security Committee reports from April 2026.
Right, there's a lot to cover.
There really is. And just to be completely clear right up front, our goal today is simply to look at the raw facts and data laid out in these documents. We are not taking any political sides here.
Exactly.
We are impartially reporting the arrests and the statistics exactly as federal investigators present them. And honestly, the facts in our first story are just wild.
They really are. We are looking at a coordinated intelligence campaign that relies entirely on ordinary people.
So let's start with the immediate news hook that triggered this whole deep dive. Because just days ago, on April 7th, 2026, a massive security breach came to a head at JFK Airport in New York.
Federal agents essentially moved in and made a high-stakes arrest right at the departure gate.
Right. They stopped a 21-year-old Chinese national named Tianru Liang. He was trying to board a flight out of the United States, and he wasn't some known super spy.
No, not at all.
He was just a student studying in Scotland, traveling around the U.S. on a standard non-immigrant visa. But his recent road trip through the Midwest threw up massive red flags for federal authorities.
And that is because of where he went and, well, what he was looking at. Luang was charged under a specific federal statute, 18 U.S.C. Section 795.
Right. They caught him using a camera with a heavy-duty telescopic lens.
Yep.
He was pointing it through the perimeter fence at Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, and he was targeting highly sensitive military aircraft. I mean, we are not talking about standard cargo planes here.
Definitely not.
He was photographing an RC-135 surveillance plane and, most importantly, the Boeing E-4B Night Watch.
Which is a huge deal. The E-4B is better known by its nickname, the Doomsday plane.
The Doomsday plane.
Yeah, it is a highly classified mobile command center for the U.S. President, the Secretary of Defense, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Wow.
If a massive national emergency happens, like a nuclear war or a devastating cyber attack, this is the exact plane that keeps the American government running from the sky.
The technical capabilities of this aircraft are just mind-blowing. It is built to physically withstand nuclear blasts and electromagnetic pulses.
Right.
It can stay airborne for a full week without landing as long as it gets aerial refueling.
Which is incredible.
The inside holds a crew of over 100 people, and it features 42 distinct communication systems to contact military elements anywhere on the globe.
It even has a trailing wire antenna that rolls out for miles behind the plane just to communicate with submerged nuclear submarines.
Wait, really? Miles behind the plane?
Yes, and its current operational status makes this kind of surveillance extremely sensitive.
Yeah, so.
Well, recently, aviation trackers noticed an E-4B making erratic and highly unusual flights along the coast. It even used an altered call sign.
Oh.
Yeah, it flew under the name Order Erd-1 instead of its usual sign. And this happened right amid escalating war tensions in the Middle East. So this specific fleet is highly active, heavily mobilized, and operating under intense global pressure.
So, okay, this 21-year-old student gets caught pointing a telescopic lens at this vital piece of national security. When investigators pull him in, he claims he used a plane spotter website to find good vantage points.
Right.
He admits that he knew taking photos of grounded military planes was totally illegal. But his excuse, he claims it was just for his personal collection.
Yeah, personal collection.
And get this, his travel itinerary showed he already bought a ticket to go to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma next, specifically to hunt down more photos of the E-4B fleet.
Which really shows premeditation. I mean, he had a clear list of targets.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where I get completely stuck. If this aircraft is literally the president's nuclear doomsday command center, why is the suspect only facing a minor federal charge?
It is frustrating for sure.
The statute they used carries a maximum of 1 year in prison. 1 year. That makes no sense. It is like catching someone photographing the internal tumblers of a massive bank vault, listening to them claim they just really appreciate metalwork, and then the police only charge them with loitering.
Right.
How does that happen?
What's fascinating here is how this perfectly illustrates modern intelligence gathering. When we think of spies, we think of James Bond,
Sure, tuxedos and gadgets.
Exactly. We think of highly trained, undercover agents stealing top-secret files. But that is not how it works anymore. Foreign actors frequently use what intelligence agencies call non-traditional collectors.
Beating normal people.
Exactly.
Uh,
They use students, tourists, and visiting business people. These individuals gather vital intelligence in plain sight.
wow.
They use their normal legal status as a shield. And the mechanism behind this is brilliant because it is incredibly difficult to prosecute.
Because they just look like tourists.
Yes. And in the American legal system, to charge someone with high-level espionage, prosecutors need explicit, documented proof that a foreign government directly ordered the person to steal the information.
And I'm guessing the FBI doesn't have a signed contract between this student and a foreign handler.
Precisely. The FBI affidavit, in Lang's case, does not explicitly allege he was acting on behalf of a foreign government.
Ah, I see.
Without that direct link, without the smoking gun of an encrypted message or a wire transfer, prosecutors simply cannot prove espionage in court.
So they use the tools they actually have.
Exactly. They hit them with lesser trespassing and unauthorized photography charges. It stops the immediate threat, but it barely scratches the surface of the larger operation.
So they slap them with a 1-year photography charge because proving they are an actual spy is almost impossible once they use the tourist excuse?
Yes, and Liang's arrest was absolutely not a fluke. If we pull back the lens, this specific incident at Offutt Air Force Base is part of a much wider systemic campaign of military surveillance happening across the entire country.
Really? How widespread is it?
According to the Homeland Security Committee report, military espionage accounts for about 29% of all reported CCP-related incidents in the United States.
29%. That is a massive chunk of their overall operations dedicated just to probing American military readiness.
You really is.
Like, take the case of Qilin Wu. He is a Chinese national who entered the U.S. illegally. In December 2025, he was arrested for taking unauthorized photos and videos of the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers at White Man Air Force Base in Missouri.
Right.
He was driving a minivan near the perimeter fence, getting out, and taking highly detailed shots of the military equipment and the gate's security.
And it's not just Chinese nationals executing these probes either. The reports highlight Mikhail Miroslav Rokita, a Polish national.
Oh, yeah, the guy in Nevada.
Exactly. He was recently sentenced for photographing and recording the Nevada test and training range.
And his method was insane. He actually met up with a local guy who runs an amateur website about the base. Rokita took restricted footage of the defense site and then shared it on a YouTube live stream. He literally live streamed restricted military defense sites to the public.
It is incredibly brazen.
So my question is this. Are U.S. military bases just terribly secured? Or is the sheer volume of these tourists making them impossible to protect? I mean, it feels like trying to keep mosquitoes out of a tent with a tennis racket. You swing and swing, but eventually someone slips through.
That analogy is perfect, honestly, but we need to take it a step further. If you have 1 million mosquitoes, you don't even need them all to bite.
Right.
If just one gets through the netting, you have the blood sample you need.
Right.
They rely on the strategy of overwhelming volume.
I see.
The perpetrators use the open nature of American society against itself. We have public roads that run right up against military fences. We have public flight tracking websites.
Right. Literally anyone can drive up to the line.
Exactly.
Well,
By sending countless unconnected individuals to probe the perimeters of sensitive sites, foreign intelligence can piece together a highly accurate map of U.S. defense readiness. One person gets photos of the gate response times, another gets photos of the flight line activity, another gets the shift changes.
and they just put it all together.
They piece all these tiny puzzle pieces together back home. And they do all of this without ever risking their actual highly trained intelligence officers.
Wait, I need to stop you there because there's a missing piece to this puzzle.
Okay.
How do they get all these unconnected people to do this? If I am a foreign student studying in the U.S., why on earth would I risk getting arrested just to take photos of a bomber for a government I don't even work for?
That brings us to one of the most important details in these reports. In 2017, the People's Republic of China passed the National Intelligence Law.
Okay.
Article 7 of that law makes it a legal obligation for all Chinese citizens and organizations to support, assist, and cooperate with state intelligence work.
Hold on. A legal obligation. So it is like a military draft, but for spying?
It functions like a permanent compulsory obligation.
Right.
You don't have to be a trained spy. The mechanism works through leverage. Yeah, if you are a Chinese citizen studying abroad or doing business in the U.S., you might get a phone call from a state official. They might say, hey, we see you are traveling near Omaha this weekend. Do us a favor and take some pictures of the airfield.
And if you say no?
If you say no, you are breaking the law in your home country. Your family back home could face consequences.
Oh, wow.
Your business could be shut down, your passport could be revoked. So many of these non-traditional collectors are essentially coerced.
That is awful.
They are trapped between facing a minor trespassing charge in the U.S. or facing severe retaliation against their families back home.
Wow, that completely changes the context. That totally explains the overwhelming volume. They essentially crowdsource their spy work by holding their own citizens hostage.
Exactly. And it creates a severe, exhausting strain on local base security and the FBI, who basically have to chase down every single person with a camera.
But bringing down a superpower isn't just about photographing bombers. If you really want to weaken a rival nation, you have to steal the blueprints driving their economy. And that is exactly what is happening. The same non-traditional collector strategy is being weaponized against the U.S. commercial sector.
The statistics here are staggering.
They really are. Between January 2021 and October 2024, there were over 55 CCP-related espionage cases spread across 20 different U.S. states.
And the pace is accelerating.
Yeah, here is a number that really blew my mind.
Oh.
The FBI is opening a new case to counter these operations roughly every 12 hours.
So let that sink in.
Every single day, twice a day, a new case opens.
And about 80% of all economic espionage prosecutions allege conduct that directly benefits the Chinese state.
80%?
Yeah, they heavily target the technologies of the future, things like artificial intelligence, aerospace engineering, and medical technology.
Let's talk about how this actually happens, because it is rarely a midnight break-in, you know.
Right.
Look at Lin Wei-ding, a Chinese national residing in California. He was indicted for plotting to steal artificial intelligence trade secrets directly from Google.
That was a huge case.
Or take Klaus Flugbeil, who recently pleaded guilty in New York. He worked for a U.S.-based electric vehicle company. How did he steal their trade secrets? He didn't hack a mainframe.
No.
He just downloaded massive amounts of proprietary source code onto personal hard drives while he was an employee. Then he used those exact secrets to build a competing EV business overseas.
The mechanism of this theft is terrifyingly simple. In a digital world, $1 billion worth of research and development can fit on a thumb drive in someone's pocket.
Right.
And once that data crosses international borders, it is almost completely gone.
But why is that? Why can't the U.S. company just sue them?
Because U.S. courts have no jurisdiction in China. If a foreign competitor uses stolen American source code to build a cheaper electric battery in Shenzhen, the U.S. company cannot send a subpoena.
That makes sense.
They cannot enforce a patent violation. The intellectual property is simply gone. And the foreign company now has the exact same technology without having spent a single dollar on the years of failure and research it took to develop it.
So they basically get all the answers to the test without studying?
Exactly. And that leads to the staggering financial cost mentioned in the Homeland Security Report.
Right.
The report calculates that this massive wave of intellectual property theft costs between $4,000 and $6,000 per American family of four after paying taxes.
Okay, wait. I have to push back on that number. $4,000 to $6,000 per family.
That sounds high, I know.
Yeah. How does stealing a line of code or an AI trade secret from a massive trillion-dollar tech giant actually cost a regular family working in Ohio that kind of money? It sounds like fuzzy math.
Well, it sounds abstract until you break down the macroeconomic reality. The government is not mailing a bill to your house.
Right.
It is a hidden tax on the entire American economy. When foreign competitors use stolen data to bypass billions of dollars in R&D costs, they can mass-produce the exact same technology at a fraction of the price.
Right, because they didn't have to pay the scientists to invent it.
Precisely. They then flood the global market with these cheaper products. That completely undercuts the American companies.
Okay, I am following.
When those American companies lose their market share, their profits tank. When profits tank, they lay off American workers. When workers lose their jobs, they stop paying income tax, and the company stops paying corporate tax.
And the tax base shrinks.
Exactly.
Huh.
The local and federal governments still need roads built and schools funded, but there is less money in the pot.
Oh, wow.
So the economic burden shifts directly onto the remaining regular taxpayers. That lost revenue, those lost jobs, and the destruction of U.S. businesses, that is where the $4,000, $6,000 figure comes from.
It drains the wealth of the nation from the bottom up.
Yes.
That makes it incredibly real. It is not just Google losing money, it is a town losing its factory.
Exactly.
But Lerner, as much as stealing hardware and trade secrets hurts the economy, the narrative in these documents takes a much darker turn.
It really does.
Because the most chilling aspect of this campaign isn't what they steal, it is who they target. They are targeting human beings living right here in America.
We are talking about transnational repression. The reports name the PRC as the top global perpetrator of this practice.
Transnational repression, what exactly is that?
It's when authoritarian governments reach across borders to silence, harass, and coerce dissidents and refugees who have fled to other countries.
Right. They use a specific initiative called Operation Fox Hunt. It sounds like an action movie title, but the reality is brutal.
It is very real.
It is a massive repatriation campaign. They send agents into the U.S. to stalk and intimidate people, trying to force them to return to China to face punishment. And the tactics they use are incredibly audacious.
They don't just send threatening emails,
Yeah.
They operate on the ground.
Here's where it gets really interesting and honestly kind of terrifying. The Ministry of Public Security actually established a clandestine physical secret police station right in Manhattan, in New York City. But how does a foreign police station operate in Manhattan without the NYPD or the FBI noticing for so long? What were they actually doing day to day?
Well, the mechanism of the secret police station relies entirely on a benign front. They did not have flashing blue lights and officers in uniform.
Of course not.
They set up shop in a nondescript office building in Chinatown. Outwardly, they offered basic administrative services for Chinese citizens, things like helping people renew their foreign driver's licenses. But that was just the cover.
So what actually happened in the back room?
In the back room, the operators used that office as a base to track down pro-democracy critics living in New York.
Wow.
They would locate a dissident, bring them in or contact them, and use this space to deliver threats. They would show the dissident videos of their family members back in China being harassed by local police, essentially saying, if you don't stop protesting in New York, your parents will go to jail in Beijing.
That is just evil.
It is a massive violation of U.S. sovereignty. Eventually, 2 individuals were arrested for operating that station, and they actively destroyed evidence of their communications with a PRC official when the FBI moved in.
I mean, it is like a rival sports team setting up their own locker room right inside your home stadium. And not just sitting there, but actually listening to all your play calls and texting them to the opposing coach completely undetected.
That's a great way to put it. It fractures communities from the inside. And they don't just set up fake police stations. They actively infiltrate activist networks.
Right.
Look at the case of Xu Jinwan. He was convicted in New York for acting as a foreign agent.
His story is wild. He actually started a fake pro-democracy organization.
He did.
He built this whole group, hosted meetings, and shook hands just to get close to prominent activists seeking change in China. Once he gained their trust and learned their plans, he turned around and reported all of them back to the Ministry of State Security.
It is a complete betrayal of trust. The mechanism here is psychological warfare. If you cannot trust the person sitting next to you at a pro-democracy rally, the movement falls apart.
And it happens on college campuses, too. The reports detail a student at the Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Yes, that case was alarming.
This student was convicted of cyberstalking and threatening another person simply because that person posted a pro-democracy flyer on campus.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the ultimate goal of transnational repression. It is not just about silencing a single student at Berkeley or harassing one activist in New York.
What is the larger objective then?
It is a profound, chilling message sent to all immigrants, refugees, and dissidents.
A message.
Yes, the message is that borders do not matter. It tells them that the authoritarian regime's reach is absolute, no matter where you flee. It directly challenges U.S. sovereignty by proving to these vulnerable populations that American laws and American police cannot keep them safe from foreign retaliation.
That is heavy. It creates an atmosphere of total paranoia for people who thought they had finally escaped to freedom.
It absolutely weaponizes fear to maintain control of the diaspora.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's bring this deep dive full circle. What started as a seemingly minor arrest of a 21-year-old student taking pictures of a doomsday plane in Nebraska, it actually peels back the curtain on a massive, highly coordinated campaign.
It really does.
We have traced this from the military flight lines of the Midwest to the boardrooms of Silicon Valley where AI secrets are downloaded onto thumb drives, all the way to a secret police station operating behind a storefront in Manhattan. The scale of information, intellectual property, and human targeting is just staggering.
And learner, this is exactly why this matters to you. This isn't just an abstract geopolitical chess game happening in the halls of government.
No, it's not.
It affects the security of your local communities, it affects the innovation driving your economy, and directly increases your tax burden. And, most importantly, it affects the safety and mental well-being of people seeking freedom in your own neighborhoods.
It really is happening right outside our windows. And that leaves us with one final puzzle to mull over. We talked about the 2017 National Intelligence Law, which obligates ordinary citizens to assist state intelligence work.
Right.
The perpetrators use the freedom of American society, the open roads, the global universities, the free markets as a weapon against us.
The very things that make the country thrive are the vulnerabilities being exploited.
So here's the question we leave you with today. How does an open, democratic society, a society that desperately needs and thrives on welcoming international students, global researchers, and immigrants, protect its most vital secrets without descending into suspicion and paranoia of everyone who walks through its doors?
It really is the defining security challenge of our time.
Something to think about the next time you see someone taking a photo of an airplane. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.